The protests across Turkey have focused attention on its position as a secular state. Since its creation as a modern republic almost 100 years ago, religions had no place in the constitution. But now, many fear that's changing. Isil Sariyuce looks at what's led to these demonstrations.
The fear of growing authoritarianism is the main theme driving these protests. In the secular state, it's been a combination of government decisions to impose greater limits on personal freedoms that has been the catalyst for many to march in protest. Their unhappiness has been caused in part by the imposition of tighter restrictions on the sale of alcohol and on public displays of affection. Last week, the parliament voted through a change to the law on alcohol sales. It outlawed the sale of it from convenience stores between 10 at night and 6 in the morning and close to the mosques. Opposition politicians criticized the measure and accused the ruling AK party trying to introduce more Islamic rules into the society. At the time, public reaction to the news was mixed. Then, last week, 100 people staged a kissing protest in Ankara after a couple had been publicly cautioned for kissing each other in a metro station. The couple had been told to act in accordance with moral rules after they had been seen on a closed-circuit TV. At the heart of the matter is the government's attitude towards the secular state. The Prime Minister, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, is a devout Muslim who believes introducing Islam to the laws governing society is not inherently dangerous. And his views are popular with many Turks. In the general election 2 years ago, he and his party won almost half of the vote, more than double of the opposition and more secular Republican People Party, or CHP. But despite this, a large minority of people reject Erdogan's agenda. And although it's the constitutional duty of the government to protect a secular state, some protesters believe some people in the government want to do away with it.
All right, well, joining us now is Isil Sariyuce. Isil, in your report, it was a kind of setting of the political landscape, but I want you to take us into the crowd and tell us who the people are that are demonstrating on the streets, because it's a really mixed bag, isn't it?
There is a huge diversity of people there on the ground on Taksim Square right now. There are young people, but there are also old people. There are housewives, like middle-class people, upper middle-class people, lower middle-class people. There's a huge diversity, and there are lots of the people there on the ground today. It's the first time for them to be on the ground protesting. They say they don't have any political background, they didn't need to go into the protests before, but now they felt so. An interesting aspect, there's so much football fans, protesters, yes, also on the ground.
Yeah, and they're normally rivals, aren't they? And they're often violent rivalry.
Yeah, they are. We observe lots of violence between the supporters of especially Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. Yeah. In the past. They are like kind of enemy to each other,
right.
But now for the last 2-3 days they were like together, shoulder to shoulder on the ground, supporting each other, and I have to say that they were pretty influential, because they know how to deal with the police, tear gas and everything, so they were influential on the ground.
Okay, this diversity of the crowd is matched with a seeming unity of purpose. Is it all about, though, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, or about the police mistreatment?
The police mistreatment has exaggerated the things. I mean, if police were being treating less in a less violent way, using less, not intervening to the protesters and so on, it wouldn't rise that high maybe. But it's not the only thing, because people were feeling their lifestyle under threat for at least 1.5 years, especially when the government has been elected for the 3rd time. So, and this is another aspect, because they are there to defend their lifestyle, they say so.
All right,
yeah.
And I just want to put this into context, because, you know, we've been talking about Syria, we've been talking about Iraq. Turkey has borders with both of those countries. This internal domestic unrest happening in a country that is so crucial to the region at a time when everything seems to be changing. What does that mean for the government in Turkey? Do you think that means that they'll want to be even harsher, or they'll be serious about an urgent strategy to work it out?
It's clear that there is a message out of Taksim Square today to the government, directly to the government, because we've been hearing so much people chanting, asking the resigning of Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and they're asking for an official apology from him because of the attitude of the police, and they want that project, the shopping mall project, to be cancelled. It's their three main demands. We don't know which of them government will answer, but there is one thing sure, because there is a huge message saying to the Erdogan, we want our freedom, because now with the Arab Spring, people are in the region, people are getting more free. So the people in Turkey want the democracy to be applied in better terms, but it doesn't mean that it's going to turn to kind of Turkish Spring, because I find a bit exaggerated, because AKP government is a democratically elected government. In 2011, they have got the half of the votes. So we cannot compare Turkey with any other countries of the Middle East.
Interesting to see what strategy will be taken. Thanks very much indeed, Isil Sariyuce.